Imagine a crime so um, profoundly horrific, just so utterly devoid of humanity, that experienced law enforcement officials called it the most sadistic case they'd ever encountered.
Yeah, and a deputy prosecutor actually described it in court as the most diabolical case ever seen.
Yeah.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that level of cruelty.
It really is, and it makes you wonder, how do we grapple with that? What can we possibly learn from something so dark? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of case. The tragic, widely publicized story of Sylvia Likens. We've looked through, a lot of sources, articles, research, legal documents,
Right.
to pull out the crucial facts, try to understand the people involved, and really explore the lasting impact of what happened.
And our goal here really is to get beyond just the shocking headlines. We want to extract the key insights from this very difficult material.
Mm-hmm.
So you can understand not just what happened to Sylvia, but why her story still resonates so strongly today, why it led to change. We want you to feel informed, but, without being completely overwhelmed.
Okay, let's start by setting the scene. It's heartbreaking, really. Sylvia Marie Likens, born 1949. She died October 26, 1965, just 16 years old.
Right, in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And the perpetrators. This is the part that's so hard to grasp. Her caregiver, Gertrude Baniszewski, several of Gertrude's own children, and even some neighborhood kids.
It's a profound betrayal of trust, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And what's really striking is how the abuse unfolded. It wasn't like one single horrific event. It was this incremental torture that just kept escalating over 3 whole months.
3 months. Wow.
Yeah. The official cause of death was listed as a combination of things. Subdural hematoma, that's a severe brain bleed, usually from impact shock, and just extreme malnutrition.
And the autopsy, the details are incredibly disturbing.
They are. It documented over 150 separate wounds all over her body, burns, scald marks, skin that was literally eroded away. Just awful.
The reaction at the time was understandably intense. It's still considered one of the worst crimes in Indiana's history.
Definitely. That senior police investigator, he had 35 years on the force.
Yeah.
And he called it the most sadistic case he'd ever handled.
And those quotes from the trial, they stick with you. The deputy prosecutor calling it the most diabolical case.
And even Gertrude's own defense attorney describing the acts as degradation that you wouldn't commit on a dog. It tells you something about the sheer horror everyone was confronting.
So to really understand this, we need to look at the people involved. Let's start with Sylvia herself. Sylvia Likens, born January 3rd, 1949. She was the third of 5 kids. Her parents, Lester and Elizabeth Likens, were carnival workers.
Right, constantly moving around.
And Sylvia, she was described as, friendly, confident, lively. Her friends called her Cookie, long, wavy, light brown hair, loved the Beatles, apparently very protective of her younger sister, Jenny.
But that family situation, it sounds like it was pretty unstable.
Yeah, the sources point to that. A volatile marriage, lots of moving, serious money problems.
Which meant Sylvia and Jenny often stayed with relatives.
Right.
Like their grandmother. Because their parents were on the road.
Exactly. And Sylvia, even as a teen, would sometimes babysit or do chores to earn money, and she'd give some of it to her mom. It paints a picture of someone resourceful, maybe, but also quite vulnerable.
Definitely vulnerable.
Now let's talk about Gertrude Baniszewski, born September 19th, 1928. She was 36 at the time, about 5'6", but weighed only 100 pounds.
Yeah, described as haggard, underweight, asthmatic.
Yeah.
And a chain smoker. She sounds like someone under immense strain.
Her background seems just as troubled, really.
Oh, absolutely. Dropped out of high school at 16, multiple failed marriages, twice to the same man, John Baniszewski, once to someone else, Edward Guthrie. Then a failed relationship with Dennis Lee Wright.
Wow.
And all of this resulted in 7 children. She reportedly suffered from clinical depression, relied on sporadic checks from her first husband, just immense stress.
So how did Sylvia and Jenny end up living with her? It seems like such a fateful decision.
Well, in July 1965, their mother, Elizabeth, was actually jailed for shoplifting.
Oh.
So their father, Lester, needed to find somewhere for the girls to stay. He arranged for them to board with Gertrude. Gertrude was the mother of 2 girls, Paula and Stephanie, that Sylvia and Jenny knew from school.
And Gertrude apparently assured him she'd treat them like her own kids. For $20 a week?
That's what the sources say. She promised she'd care for them. So the sisters moved into Gertrude's house at 3850 East New York Street in Indianapolis.
We should also mention Jenny Likens here, Sylvia's younger sister.
Yes, definitely. Jenny had suffered from polio, so she walked with a noticeable limp and wore a brace. She was described as much more timid, more insecure than Sylvia.
which tragically made her a key witness, but probably a very reluctant one.
Exactly. A reluctant and terrified witness to what was about to happen.
So initially, things seemed almost normal. You mentioned Sylvia singing pop songs with Stephanie, doing chores.
Yeah, for a very short time.
Yeah.
But something changed pretty quickly and dramatically.
What was the trigger, according to the sources? What set off this horrifying spiral?
It seems the main turning point was money. After about 2 weeks, those $20 weekly payments from Lester Likens started becoming inconsistent. They didn't always arrive.
Oh.
And Gertrude apparently started taking her frustration out on the girls. The sources mentioned her beating their bare buttocks with paddle, saying things like, "Well, I took care of you two little bitches for a week for nothing."
Wow. And from there, it just got worse, focusing mainly on Sylvia.
Yes. By mid-August, the focus shifted almost entirely onto Sylvia. And the motivation seems complex, but jealousy appears to be a huge factor. Jealousy of Sylvia's youth, her looks, maybe even her potential.
And this is where the brutality just explodes, isn't it?
It really does. We're talking relentless beatings,
Yeah.
starvation. She was forced to eat leftovers, spoiled food from garbage cans, horrible humiliation and sexual abuse.
Like the false accusations of promiscuity.
Exactly. After Sylvia mentioned some boyfriend, Gertrude kicked her in the genitals, accused her of being pregnant. Paul Baniszewski, who was actually pregnant herself and apparently also jealous, joined in, knocking Sylvia down, shouting things like, "You ain't fit to sit in a chair."
It's just layers upon layers of cruelty.
And it kept escalating, being force-fed things until she vomited, then forced to eat the vomit. Retaliation for perceived slights, like spreading rumors. Gertrude used a police belt on her. Paula broke her own wrist, hitting Sylvia, and then used the cast as a weapon.
And then it wasn't just Gertrude and her kids anymore.
No, and this is one of the most chilling aspects. Gertrude actively encouraged neighborhood kids to join in. People like Coy Hubbard and Richard Hobbs.
What did they do?
They beat her, sometimes using her like a judo dummy. They cut her, burned her skin with cigarettes over 100 times, the sources say, severely injured her genitals.
It's almost unimaginable.
There was an incident where she was forced to strip naked, penetrate herself with a glass Pepsi bottle in front of others. Gertrude apparently said it was to prove to Jenny what kind of a girl you are. Just pure degradation.
And she was isolated too, right? Stopped from going to school?
Yes, accused of stealing a gym suit. That was the excuse. After that, Gertrude whipped her with the belt again and burned her fingertips with matches. The isolation was complete.
What stands out to you about how this just kept growing? How do so many people get drawn into this vortex of abuse? It's baffling.
It really is. And you see this move into what some sources call the turmoil phase. Both Sylvia and Jenny were absolutely terrified. They were scared to tell any adult's family, school, because they thought it would just make things worse for them.
Jenny was specifically threatened, wasn't she?
Yes, Gertrude explicitly threatened her with the same treatment if she ever spoke out. And think about the missed opportunities. When their parents visited in October, the girls didn't show any distress.
Probably because Gertrude was right there.
Exactly. But the moment the parents left, Gertrude reportedly turned to Sylvia and said chillingly, "What are you going to do now, Sylvia? Now they're gone."
Just pure menace.
It wasn't just the parents. They did tell their oldest sister, Diana, about some of it.
But she didn't believe them at first.
Initially, no. She thought they were exaggerating. Later, when she tried to visit, Gertrude wouldn't let her in the house.
And the school system failed too.
Completely. An anonymous call came in about Sylvia having open sores. A school nurse visited, but Gertrude just lied. Sylvia had run away, claimed she had poor hygiene.
And the school just stopped looking.
No further investigation. It's shocking.
What about the neighbors? Did anyone see anything?
Oh, yes. The immediate neighbors, Raymond and Phyllis Vermillion, they saw Paula Baniszewski abusing Sylvia. They even heard Paula bragging about it. They saw Sylvia looking, quote, zombified.
But they didn't report it.
Never reported it. It's this chilling combination of systemic failure and perhaps the bystander effect you mentioned. People saw things, alarming things, but responsibility got diffused. Everyone assumed someone else would act, or maybe they were scared themselves. It created this collective silence.
A silence that allowed the horror to continue, essentially trapping Sylvia.
Exactly. The warnings were there, the alarm bells were ringing loud and clear, but every system, every potential point of intervention failed her.
And the abuse just kept getting worse in those final weeks.
Unimaginably worse. Sylvia became incontinent because of the constant abuse. As punishment, she wasn't allowed to use the bathroom, forced to wet herself. Then she was thrown into the basement.
Tied up.
Tied up, often naked, starved, denied water. sometimes tied to the stairs railing, her feet barely touching the ground. It's torture.
And other kids were involved, even then?
Yes, horrifically. Other kids were charged 5 cents to come down and see her, to humiliate her, abuse her further. Gertrude and others would gag her, put her in scalding hot water, rub salt into her open wounds.
It's just beyond comprehension.
And then there were acts that are almost unspeakable. John Baniszewski Jr., Gertrude's son, and Gertrude herself forced urine and feces from a baby's diaper into Sylvia's mouth.
Oh my God, and then came the branding.
Yes, October 23rd. Gertrude used a heated needle. She started carving, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," onto Sylvia's abdomen.
She actually said something while doing it, didn't she?
She did. "You branded my children, so now I'm going to brand you." When she couldn't finish it herself, she made Richard Hobbs do it.
And Hobbs later tried to downplay it.
Yeah, he insisted his etching was short, light, even while Sylvia was clearly in agony. Then he and Shirley Baniszewski tried to burn an S, which looked more like a 3, into her flesh with a heated anchor bolt.
And Gertrude just taunted her afterward.
Told her she'd never get married with those words on her stomach. Just relentless psychological torment on top of the physical agony.
Did Sylvia realize she was dying?
It seems she did. That same night, she told Jenny, "Jenny, I know you don't want me to die, but I'm going to die. I can tell it."
Heartbreaking.
And the next day, October 24th, Gertrude forced Sylvia to write a letter. The idea was to frame some local boys for her injuries, then leave her in the woods to die.
But Sylvia resisted, even then.
She refused crackers they tried to give her. Gertrude just forced them into her mouth and beat her again.
Even in that state, facing death, she showed this resilience. It's extraordinary.
It really is. On October 25th, she overheard Gertrude and John Jr. planning to abandon her. And despite everything, her injuries, her weakness, she tried to escape the basement.
But she didn't make it.
No. Gertrude caught her, tried to force crackers on her again, which Sylvia couldn't swallow because she was so dehydrated. Gertrude then hit her repeatedly in the face with a metal curtain rod until it bent.
Oh, God.
Then Coy Hubbard took the bent rod and hit her one last time, knocking her unconscious. Gertrude dragged her back down to the basement.
And later that night, she tried to get help again.
Yes, screaming, hitting the basement walls with a spade. A neighbor heard it.
But didn't call the police.
No. The noise stopped around 3 a.m., and they didn't call. Another missed chance.
So the morning of October 26th, her final day.
By then, she could barely speak coherently, couldn't coordinate her movements. Gertrude brought her upstairs, tried to give her a donut and milk. Sylvia couldn't even lift the milk carton.
And Gertrude's reaction?
Frustration. She threw Sylvia to the floor, put her back in the basement. Sylvia became delirious, just moaning, mumbling. Her tormentors gathered around her. She tried to identify them. "You're Ricky, you're Gertie."
Just fragments.
Yeah. John Jr. sprayed her with a garden hose. She collapsed trying to get out of the basement, and Gertrude stamped on her head.
Stamped on her head.
That's what the sources indicate. Later that afternoon, around 5:30, Richard Hobbs found Stephanie Baniszewski crying, holding Sylvia's body emaciated, covered in wounds.
Stephanie tried to help then.
She and Richard gave Sylvia a warm bath, laid her on a mattress. Sylvia whispered something about wishing her dad was there, asking Stephanie to take her home.
Her last words.
Moments later, Stephanie realized Sylvia wasn't breathing. Tried mouth to mouth.
And Gertrude, even then.
Kept shouting that Sylvia was faking it. Just unbelievable cruelty right to the very end. Sylvia Likens died then, 16 years old.
And the discovery. How did the police find out?
Well, Gertrude initially beat Sylvia's corpse, shouting, "Fake her." But then panic must have set in. She had Richard Hobbs call the police.
Did she try to lie?
Oh, yeah. Told the officers Sylvia had run away, just came back, that Gertrude had been doctoring her wounds. Standard cover-up attempt.
But Jenny finally spoke up.
Yes. Apparently Paula threatened her, but Jenny managed to whisper to one of the officers, "You get me out of here and I'll tell you everything."
And that broke the case open.
Completely. Her statement led to the arrests within hours. Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, John Jr., Coy Hubbard, Richard Hobbs. Other kids involved were also arrested, later released to be witnesses.
And the autopsy confirmed the sheer horror of it all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Over 150 wounds, extreme emaciation, burns, bruises, nerve damage, swollen vaginal cavity, broken fingernails, lips bitten to shreds. The official cause? Subdural hematoma, complicated by shock and severe malnutrition. Just brutal.
Sylvia's funeral, that must have been incredibly difficult.
Held October 29, 1965 in Lebanon, Indiana. Over 100 people attended. Her casket was open, with a portrait of her from before the abuse.
Did the eulogy address what happened?
The Reverend Lewis Gibson said, "We won't suffer like our little sister suffered during the last days of her life." Her headstone just reads, "Our darling daughter." Simple, but powerful.
So the crime itself is just staggering. How did the justice system actually handle this?
Well, on December 30th, 1965, the grand jury indicted 5 of them for first-degree murder: Gertrude, Paula, John Jr., Richard Hobbs, and Coy Hubbard.
First-degree murder, meaning they believed it was premeditated.
Yes, alleging premeditated malice and that they inflicted the fatal injuries. Stephanie Baniszewski, remember, was released and agreed to testify against the others.
And the trial started when?
April 18th, 1966. The prosecution went for the death penalty for all 5. They also successfully argued they should all be tried together because they acted in concert.
What were the defenses?
Varied. Gertrude pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. The others basically claimed Gertrude pressured them, that they weren't fully responsible.
The testimony must have been harrowing.
Extremely. The deputy coroner described Sylvia's injuries, the shock. Jenny Likens testified, tearfully recounting the abuse, saying Sylvia couldn't even cry anymore because she was so dehydrated.
Any other notable testimony?
Randy Lepper, one of the neighborhood kids who participated, admitted hitting Sylvia maybe 10 to 40 times. He reportedly smirked on the stand.
Smirked. Unbelievable.
And a Baptist minister testified he knew about some abuse but didn't report it because Gertrude told him Sylvia was soliciting. Shows how manipulative Gertrude was.
What did Gertrude herself say?
Denied everything. Blamed her kids, blamed her own poor health. Richard Hobbs testified that Gertrude started the branding, then told him to finish it.
And Marie Baniszewski, another daughter?
She broke down on the stand, admitted she heated the needle for the branding, described her mother just watching him passively, crocheting, while another girl attacked Sylvia. Just chilling indifference.
The closing arguments must have been intense.
Incredibly powerful. The prosecution, Marjorie Wesner, called the abuse stomach-wrenching, compared it to Nazi concentration camps, kept bringing up Sylvia's shredded lips.
And the other prosecutor, Leroy, knew.
He promised to speak through the mangled and shredded lips of Sylvia Likens. He insisted every single mark on her body contributed to her death, called it the most hideous thing Indiana has ever seen, and urged the jury not to lower the value of human life. Really strong stuff.
What did the defense argue?
For Gertrude, they pushed the insanity defense hard, stark mad. For the others, they tried to minimize their roles, suggesting it was just assault and battery, not murder. They even criticized Jenny for not reporting the abuse sooner.
Blaming the victim's sister. Wow. So the verdicts. After 17 days of trial,
the jury deliberated for about 8 hours. On May 19th, 1966, Gertrude Baniszewski, guilty of first-degree murder. Sentenced to life imprisonment.
And pause.
Paula Baniszewski, guilty of second-degree murder. Also life imprisonment.
And the boys, Hobbs, Hubbard, John Jr.
Guilty of manslaughter. Sentenced to 2 to 21 years each.
But that wasn't the end of the legal process, was it? There were appeals.
Right. In 1970, the Indiana Supreme Court actually reversed Gertrude and Paula's convictions. They ruled that the intense media publicity had created a prejudicial atmosphere.
So retrials.
Yes. In 1971, Paula pleaded guilty to a lesser charge, voluntary manslaughter, and was released in 1972. Gertrude was retried, convicted again of first-degree murder, and again sentenced to life.
Did she change in prison?
Apparently, she became a model prisoner, known as Mom. She even legally changed her name to Nadine Van Fossen.
But then came the parole hearing in 1985. That caused a huge reaction, didn't it?
Massive uproar. Jenny Likens and the family protested vehemently. Anti-crime groups got involved, collecting over 40,000 signatures opposing her release. People who weren't even alive during the crime signed it.
What did Gertrude say at the hearing? Did she take responsibility?
She claimed she wished Sylvia's death could be undone, but she still minimized her role, blaming the drugs she was taking at the time. Asthma medication, she claimed.
Despite the protests, she got parole.
The vote was marginal, but yes, the parole board approved it. She was released on December 4th, 1985.
So after all that, what happened to everyone? What's the legacy?
It's a mixed and often bleak picture for those directly involved. Gertrude moved to Iowa after release, never really accepted full responsibility, died of lung cancer in 1990, age 61.
Did anyone ever pinpoint her motive?
One reporter who covered the case said, "I never thought she was insane. I thought she was a downtrodden, mean woman." An attorney involved suggested the core motive was probably deep-seated jealousy.
And Paula, the daughter convicted of second-degree murder.
She changed her name to Paula Pace, moved away, actually worked as a school counselor aide for 14 years.
Seriously?
Yeah, until her past was discovered in 2012, and she was fired. She got married, had kids, tried to build a new life.
What about Stephanie, the one who testified?
Murder charges were dropped because she testified. She also changed her name, became a school teacher, married, had children. Seems she also tried to distance herself completely.
And the other Baniszewski children, Marie, Shirley, James.
They were placed in foster care. Their last name was changed. Tried to give them a fresh start, away from the notoriety.
John Jr., one of the boys convicted of manslaughter.
He actually became a lay minister later in life. He did acknowledge that he and the others probably deserved harsher sentences. Admitted he only hit Sylvia once, but kind of enjoyed the attention the case brought him, which is disturbing.
Yeah, and Hobbs and Hubbard.
All three boys. Hobbs, Hubbard John Jr. served less than 2 years. Hobbs died relatively young from lung cancer. Coy Hubbard, sadly, seemed to have a life marked by repeated imprisonment for other offenses.
And poor Jenny Likens, Sylvia's sister. How does she cope?
She remained deeply traumatized for the rest of her life, dependent on anxiety medication. She passed away in 2004.
That note she sent her mother about Gertrude's death, it speaks volumes about the pain she carried.
Absolutely clipping the obituary, writing, "Some good news. Damn old Gertrude died." I am happy about that. Just raw, lasting trauma and anger.
And the house. The scene of the crime.
For 3850 East New York Street. It stood vacant for years. There was talk of turning it into a women's shelter, but that never happened. It was finally demolished in 2009.
What's there now?
It's a church parking lot, an empty space where unimaginable horror occurred.
But Sylvia's story, as absolutely horrific as it is, it did lead to some positive changes, right? It wasn't entirely in vain.
No, definitely not. Her death is widely credited as the catalyst for Indiana adopting its mandated reporter law.
Explain that.
It legally requires citizens, teachers, doctors, neighbors, anyone to report suspected child abuse or neglect to the authorities. It directly addresses the failures we saw in her case, the silence.
So a direct legislative response.
Yes. And it also led to a much greater awareness and understanding of child abuse investigation and recognition. People started taking it more seriously.
Are there memorials for her?
Yes. In June 2001, a 6-foot granite memorial was dedicated to Sylvia in Willard Park in Indianapolis. It has a poem, and it explicitly states, as a result, laws changed and awareness increased.
And there's an advocacy center named after her.
That's right. Sylvia's Child Advocacy Center. Founded in 2010, renamed for her in 2016, located in Lebanon, Indiana, near where she's buried.
What does it do?
It helps child victims of abuse and neglect, tries to minimize their trauma during investigations, and works actively on child abuse prevention. The director said something powerful. She did not die in vain. She died a horrific death. But because of that, we're hoping that another child can be saved.
That's a powerful legacy.
It is. And her story continues to be told through adaptations like the films An American Crime and The Girl Next Door, which was loosely based, and documentaries. Keeping the memory alive is part of preventing it from happening again.
So, this deep dive, it's been incredibly difficult, but also crucial. It's a stark reminder of the depths of human cruelty, but also maybe our capacity for change afterwards.
Exactly. Her short, brutalized life became this undeniable catalyst for legal reform, for increased vigilance.
It really forces you to think about the ripple effects, doesn't it? Individual actions or inactions and these huge societal oversights.
Absolutely. Connecting it to the bigger picture, it just hammers home how vital it is to speak up, to advocate for vulnerable people, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then.
We really hope this exploration has given you, our listener, a deeper understanding of a case that truly shook a nation and, in many ways, continues to shape how we try to protect children today. For you, listening now, what part of Sylvia's story or what happened after resonates the most with you? And maybe, what responsibility do we all carry when we see signs that someone around us might be in distress? Something to think about.